What's up, notJust developers? How's it going? In today's video, we are going to implement a full authentication flow with sign in, sign up, email confirmation, and password reset screens. We're gonna do that with the help of AWS Amplify inside the React Native project. This video is going to be a little bit longer, but I want to get into as many details as possible and to cover everything when it comes to implementing an authentication flow with AWS Amplify. We will start by implementing the basic authentication that takes around 2 minutes to implement and that some of you are already familiar with. And after that, we're gonna take it to the next level and implement authentication with our custom UI, with our custom screens. And without further ado, let's jump straight into it. For this tutorial, we are going to use the UI screens that we have built during the past videos, and if you haven't checked that out, check them out in the link in the description below. I highly recommend going through that as well because we build everything from scratch. However, if you are interested in implementing only the backend side, I got you covered and you can download the asset bundle also in the description down below. And after that, you will see a couple of folders there, one of which is the authentication UI, and after you unzip it, open this project inside VS Code and let's start it from here. So let's open a terminal and first of all install the npm dependencies. And after that is done, if you are on a macOS system, you will also need to run npx pod install to install the native iOS dependencies. I'm working on a Windows machine and I don't need to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the development server by running npm start in this terminal. This will run the development server and we will open a new terminal to run our project on emulator. In my case, I'm gonna run it on an Android device, so I'm gonna do npm run Android. If you are on a macOS as well, you can do npm run iOS to run it on your iOS simulator. And here we have it. Here is the project that we are gonna use for today's tutorial. This is the sign-in screen with a form for the username and the password. On the bottom we see a link, don't have an account, create one. And here is a form for signing up. And after you fill in this form, you're gonna be redirected to confirming your account, which is another form. We're gonna get there soon. And the last screens are the forgot password screen. And here you just send your username. And after that, you are redirected to a new screen where you will input your new password and the code that you should receive on email. We're gonna put everything together today and make sure that everything is working with AWS Amplify. And for that, let's get into the first step of our tutorial. And we need to create our AWS Amplify project using the AWS Studio. For that, let's open up AWS console. Let's sign in our account. If you don't have an account, you can create one for free. And here in the search bar, let's search Amplify. On the Amplify page, if you have our project, you will see something similar to what I see right now, or you will see a welcome message and a new application button if you don't have any application yet. So let's press on the new application and let's select build an application because that's what we are trying to do. We are not trying to host a web application. For our application name, let's say authentication and let's press confirm deployment. Then let's wait until Amplify sets up our project and then we will be able to open it up in Amplify Studio. This should take around 2 or 3 minutes. After Amplify finishes setting up, we should see a similar page where we will see a button Launch Studio. Let's press on this and we should be redirected to Amplify Studio page of our project. And here is where we can manage the backend infrastructure and also the data about our project. So what we're interested to do next is to set up our authentication for our backend. So let's go to the side menu here. And if you scroll down a bit under setup, we should see data and the second option should be authentication. Let's set up our authentication and let's follow this form to set it up. In the first step here, we need to select one login mechanism. By default, it is selected the email one to log in with your email and password. In our case, we designed the application to log in with username. So that's how we are going to design our backend as well. So let's remove the email login mechanism and add username email mechanism here. This will enable users to sign in with their username and their password. Now let's scroll down and in the second step, we need to configure the sign up. And here we need to specify what additional data do we need to collect from the users and save in our Cognito to know about that user. So in our case, if I go to the sign up page, here we have username, email. This is one attribute that we will need, email. And also let's ask for the full name or just name. Then under the password protection settings, here you can specify the rules that you want to apply for the passwords, like what is the minimum size in characters, if it should include lowercase, uppercase, and so on. In my case, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to make it a bit easier so that I don't have to write it every time. Below here, you can also adjust the email, message, and subject that the user will receive whenever he will initialize a forget password flow. So if you want to add more things here, like a greetings, a thank you note, and so on, you can do that as well. I'm gonna leave it by default and I'm gonna press deploy. Confirm deployment. And now in the top right corner, we see here deploying, and we should wait until the deployment finishes and Amplify finishes setting up all these resources behind the scenes for us. It usually takes around 2 minutes to do that. After the deployment is successful, we need to click here to see the next steps. And the next steps is to pull the backend changes in our React Native project. To do that, we simply have to execute this command that they are providing in the terminal of our project by doing this. And while this is pulling, if you do not have Amplify already set up, I highly recommend following the tutorial on Amplify docs, and I'm gonna leave a link in the description to see the prerequisites, how to sign up for an AWS account, and also how to install and configure Amplify CLI. After that is done, you will be able to run this Amplify pull command. And now I'm gonna wait a couple of seconds until Amplify pulls our backend. After a couple of seconds, Amplify automatically open applications in order for us to give permission to log in, and let's just press yes and get back in our terminal to follow along the setting up. So the first thing is to choose our default editor. I'm gonna stay with Visual Studio Code. Type of application is JavaScript and it's React Native. Source directory, I'm gonna leave source by default, enter. And lastly, when we are asked if we plan on modifying this backend, just write Y and press enter and we are good to go. Alright, so I see the successful pulled backend environment from the staging environment, and what that created an Amplify folder in our project, and also in the source we see AWS exports.js. This AWS exports.js is an important file for us because it contains configuration on how this project should connect to our backend and where to connect, and we're gonna need this in the next step. But before that, we will need to install some npm libraries related to Amplify, and I'm gonna take them from the getting started guide from the Amplify docs. If we go to the setup full stack project, here we should see install Amplify libraries, and let's choose React Native CLI. Now let's copy the npm install command, go back to our terminal and paste it here. And once that's done, if you are on a macOS, don't forget to install the pod dependencies by running npx pod install. Again, I'm not gonna do that. And yeah, the next steps is to import and configure Amplify inside our project. We're gonna do that in the app.js from the root folder of our project, because this is the entry point of our application. So here, let's import Amplify from AWS Amplify. Then let's import our configuration from AWS exports and check out if it's in the source directory or if it was generated in the root folder, because for some people it is generated in the root folder. And yeah, it is important to know the path when you import it. So in my case, this is -source and then AWS exports. Now with Amplify and this config file, we can configure Amplify by running amplify.configure and to pass there our config. That's it. We have configured Amplify, and to test if everything is working as it was working before, let's rerun our project on our device. npm run Android in order to include all the new packages that we have just added to our project. Alright, and after the build is successful, we should see back our application up and running and without any errors. If that is the case for you, congrats, so far so good. Let's go into the next step. And the next step is to implement the basic authentication that is coming out of the box with Amplify and with Amplify React Native libraries. It is super simple to implement this authentication. It's quite flexible and you can adjust a lot of things yourself, and we're gonna see what we can adjust in a moment. And to do that, we will import a higher order component called withAuthenticator from AWS Amplify React Native. Now we take this withAuthenticator and we wrap our application inside this higher order component withAuthenticator. And how do we do that? We simply wrap where we export the application. We export a wrapped version of the application inside the authenticator. And what will that do? It will add an authentication flow before rendering our application. In our case, our application is that login screen, but after we reload, we should see the login screen and all the screens provided by Amplify and provided by this withAuthenticator higher order component. Here it is. That's it. That was everything we need to do to have a fully functional authentication flow with the sign-in screen, then the sign-up screen here, and also the forgot password flow. So at the moment we will not be able to sign in because we do not have an account. So let's try to sign up real quick. And here I'm gonna fill in this form. And then let's press sign up and we will see an error. The error is saying that the attributes did not conform to the schema. Name attribute is required. So what does that mean? It means that in Amplify, when we set up authentication, we have added some extra fields that we need to require and when we need to take from the user. The thing is that this form did not include automatically those fields for the full name, and yeah, only for the full name, because email it is here. In case you do not have any additional fields, this withAuthenticator hook should work everything by default and you should not see this error. But what happens if we need these additional fields? Well, we have an option to adjust exactly what fields to show in this form by providing some configuration to the withAuthenticator component. To save you some time, I prepare the configuration and you can open it also from the assets that you can get in the description below, and the file is signup.config.js. Let's open it up and let's copy this signup config. Let's go back to our app.js and we will paste it here before exporting. So let's have a quick look at this signup config. Here you can see that we have ability to override the header to the my customized signup screen. First of all, we are hiding all the default fields because we specify them in the order that we want here in this signup fields array. And for every field, we provide a label, a key, whether it's required or not, and the display order to know where to display it on the page. Then we can take this signup config and send in the options object here as also signup config. If I do that and save, and if I go to the signup right now, I will see all the fields that we need, starting with a full name, email, username, and password. Now, if I fill all the form in and press sign up, we are redirected to the confirm sign up page. And here we will need to write our username, and on our email, we should receive a code that we need to type here. And if I press confirm, I should be able to confirm my account. And here we are. We have been redirected to the login screen that we have created from our navigation. Basically, we have went through the whole process of signing up, creating an account, registering up till the application. If you want to sign up and to try it again, we're gonna get there a little bit later, but I'm gonna show you how you can do that. So here, besides importing Amplify, we will also import the Auth module, and inside the application, let's call auth.signout. This is a method to sign out, and it will be executed when the application mounts. And now we see back the login screen from Amplify. And after that, let's comment it out in order not to sign out always when we open the application. You can also try the forgot password flow, and here you'll put your username, then you'll receive again a code on your email, and on the next page you put the code, you put a new password, and that's how you change your password. So as you can see, implementing basic authentication is very easy, and it can be done in a couple of lines of code. Yeah, right now here we have some config because we have custom attributes, but if you don't have them, if you need only like username and password or email and password, you can do that just with a line of code with this withAuthenticator higher order component. Now I want to show you where you can find the details about your users, and for that we will open our Amplify Studio, and here under under user management, you will see all the users that were registered. And here I can see one of them is confirmed and two of them are not. Also, if you go to your AWS account, you can search here Cognito. And Cognito is the service that is managing authentication behind the scenes for AWS Amplify. Here in Cognito, you can search the name of your application, and in my case, that's authentication staging. And here you will see information about your users. You can see all of them, you can see the number of users, you can create groups, and you can adjust some of the settings. But be careful, do only if you know what you are doing here. Before moving to the custom authentication screens, I would like to show you a way that it is possible to adjust the styles and how the AWS sign up screen and sign in screens look using this withAuthenticator. Because I really think that for a lot of applications where you do not need some very custom UI screens, going with the withAuthenticator hook is the best approach because everything is managed behind the scenes and you don't have to take care of these edge cases. And yeah, the benefit of this is that it is flexible and you can adjust some of the things from this design. In order to do that, we will adjust the theme of the authenticator. And the first thing is to import the theme that it is actually using, in order to not overwrite it, but only to modify some of the settings from that theme. So that is inside this AWS Amplify React Native, and it is called Amplify theme. Let's import it. Now we can take this Amplify theme, scroll down a bit before exporting the component, and let's define our custom theme. So custom theme. Our custom theme by default will contain everything from Amplify theme, and we will take this custom theme and we'll send it to the options of the withAuthenticator component as a property theme. So theme custom theme. Save. Now everything looks as it was looking before because we haven't override anything from there. But in order to override, we need to know what is already there. And you can find the theming here under customization in the UI components and press on this Amplify theme. I'm gonna try to leave a link in the description below this video so you can see this file. This is the default Amplify theme that is applied to the whole authentication flow here. You can see all the styles for containers, sections, headers, and so on. So let's have a look and try to scroll down and see here we have a button. The button have a background color specified, but I want to adjust it. In order to adjust it, let's add here an override for the button style. And the first step here, if you don't want to override everything about the button, because as you can see right now, it disappeared, we want to keep the button styles from the Amplify theme .button and only override one property called background color. So background color, we can say blue. And all of a sudden our button has a background color of blue. And this way you would style any React Native component. You can style these components that are used inside the Amplify authentication flow by providing any kind of styles. So for example, if we want to have round corners, we can say border radius 10. Boom, we have round corners. And so on and so forth. We can either override everything from here, or you can only override some specific parameters about the button text, inputs, and so on. This is very powerful because it gives you the flexibility to adjust the looks and feels of this basic authentication flow. And as I said before, I highly encourage you to first consider this option of adjusting the styles. And if that is not the case for your application, then continue watching this video and we will implement the same flow in our custom design and custom build screens. So let's start implementing everything in our custom screens. So for that, we will need to get rid of this withAuthenticator because we will implement everything ourselves. Amplify, we do not need your help. No, actually we will need it, but we can do some of the things ourselves as well. So let's delete this as well. And also let's delete the import from here. We do not need it. And yeah, that's it. We should be back to beginning and we should see our custom sign-in screen. At the same time, let's open it up in our VS Code by opening source screens. And here we have a sign-in screen. So let's open sign-in screen.js because here we will have to work with this screen and call Amplify API in order to send the data there and to actually sign the user in. Whenever the user will press on this sign in button, this method will be called onSignInPress. So let's comment out everything from here and start implementing our calls. So first of all, let's get the response, and we will get it by calling auth.sign-in. Let's make sure to import auth from AWS Amplify. Okay, and the sign-in function from the auth model expects two parameters. One of them is the username, and the username we will get it from the data.username, and the second parameter is the password, and as well we will get it from data.password. The only thing that we need to do is to make sure that we make this function async, because we are calling an asynchronous function. So let's do async here. And after we receive a response, let's console.log a response to see what do we get back. So here, if I write my username and password, and if I press sign in, after a couple of seconds, we see the response being logged in our console here. And the response is a Cognito user containing all the information about the user and the session that was created for that user. And this means that it successfully logged in to my account. If I'm gonna try to write a wrong password, I will see an exception. Yes, we see the exception, possible unhandled promise rejection, and this is how we will handle the case when the user types a wrong username and password. We know that when doing that, Amplify is throwing an error. So to handle that error correctly, we will put this call inside the try-catch method, and inside the catch here, we will get the error, and using an alert component from React Native, we can simply show to the user that, hey, there was a issue, alert.alert. And for the message of alert, we will take the message from the error that was thrown here. So let's save, and let's try right now once again to log in with wrong credentials. Oops, pending sign-in attempt already in progress. This is actually another error. The second one, oops, incorrect username or password. This is the error that I was hoping to receive from the first time. So that means that everything is okay right now with handling the situation when the user submits wrong credentials. And also we handle correctly the situation when the user types in his normal credentials, because we see the user being logged here in the console. That's good. So you would expect that after logging in the user here, we would do the navigate home. This is one way, but I'm not gonna go this route because I'm gonna show you at the end of the video a better way to actually navigate to the home page whenever the user signs in. So for that reason, I'm not gonna do it right now here. What I'm gonna show you as a bonus is how to handle the error that I got a couple of seconds ago. If I double press or if I multiple time press on this sign in, we see an error that there is a pending sign in attempt already in progress. And what does that mean? It means that we call this method onSignInPress multiple times without waiting to receive a result back, and this triggers that error. This is a very common use case, and that's why I want to show you in this video how you can manage to solve this. And to solve such errors, we usually have a state variable for the loading state. We need to know if at the moment we're waiting for something. So let's create a state variable for loading and set loading, use state. And initially it's gonna be false because we are not loading initially. After that, when we execute this function, basically when we press on the button, the first thing that we want to check if it's not already loading. If loading, we want to return, we want to stop the execution because we already pressed a couple of seconds ago and we just wait for the response to reach back to us. However, if it is not loading, we let the function execute till the end. But the first thing that we do is we set the loading variable to true because we start executing this function. Also, very important, at the end of a function, after we receive a result and after we decide what to do, we will do set loading to false again to say that, yeah, we finished executing, we finished loading. You can call again this function if you want to. And the last thing that we can do in order to give user more feedback about what's happening is based on that loading state to display different text messages in the custom button. So instead of simply rendering sign in, we will conditionally render the text based on the loading. And if loading is true, we're gonna display loading ... Otherwise, we'll display sign in. This way the user will know what's happening and what he should do. And right now, if I write my credentials and after I will press sign in, the label, pay attention that is gonna transform to loading. And while it is loading, I will try to press again, but that function is not gonna be executed because that's how we program it to do. So let's press sign in, loading, and now if I press multiple times, I will not see that alert that was saying that there is a pending request. After the button finished loading, it's back to sign in and we can again press sign in. So pay attention at this loading state because in the next screens, you're gonna have to do it yourself. But we can move on to the next step and the next screen, and let's tackle the sign up screen, right? Because this is the screen with the most amount of fields. And yeah, let's go scroll up on the on register pressed. This is the function that is getting executed when we press register. And the first thing that I see there is that we have username, email, but we do not have the full name input. So for that, I'm gonna copy something for what? The custom input for the username. And I'm gonna put it before the username as name. Placeholder name. Name is required. And by doing that, we now have also the name field here. So in the on register press, let's implement the actual logic of communicating with Amplify API. So for that, again, we need to make this async function. We need the try catch block, try catch exception, and the exception we will right away alert to the user. And then inside the try block, we will do the following. So const response equal await, similar to previously auth.sign up. The method right now is sign up. Let's also make sure to import auth from AWS Amplify and the alert from React Native. Okay, so in the sign up, in comparison with the sign in, where we have two parameters, one for username, the second one for the password, the sign up expects only one parameter, which is going to be an object, which should contain the username, password, and also additional attributes that we want to set to the user. So where do we get all this information? We will get them as data in the onRegisterPress function, and we can probably right away destructure it. So username, password, email, and name. Yeah, username we send here, password we send here, and the email and the name we will send to the attributes. So email and name. All right, after that, let's console log the response to see if everything is working. Oh, but before that, I forgot to get this username from the data. Save. So let's fill in this form. And at the end, let's press register and see if we didn't make any mistakes. And we see an error. Attributes did not conform to the schema. Preferred username. The attribute is required, which means that we need to duplicate our username in the attributes. I forgot to do that as preferred underscore username. And we will assign back the same username there. So let's save. And after doing this, we see the Cognito user here, which means that it was successfully created. And to confirm that, we can check the Cognito, and under users here, we will see the user one that was registered but is not confirmed yet. All right, so this brings us to the next step, confirming a user that was just created. To do that, after our user is successfully created, instead of console logging, we will navigation. Actually, I'm gonna copy it from here. Navigate, confirm email, because we need to redirect to that page to confirm user's email. And in this case, we also don't need the response here. And let's press register, but I'm gonna have to change the username to user2, register, and we are redirected to confirming your email. Let's first of all open this page, confirm email screen. And here, besides the code, we will also need the username of a user, because that's the data that we need for the API. The good thing is that if you want, you can automate this by sending the username from the sign up screen through the navigation parameters here as username. And actually I can do that as well, like username, I'm gonna send it as username, and here in the confirmation screen I can take it from the route, and let's import use route from React Navigation Native. And then in the form I'm gonna provide default values, and I'm gonna provide the default value for our username to the route.params.username. Save. And I'm gonna have to go through this flow again. And whenever I press register, right now this page will take the username user5 and it will send to the next page here in the form. And I have a mistake here, it's not param, it's params. And if I save right now, I'm gonna sign up a new account, register, and I see the username automatically filled because we are sending it from the previous screen through the params. Awesome. So let's implement this on confirm press, and I'm gonna start by commenting out everything, and we will start by doing try and then catch, and then let's import the alert, and also let's import the Auth. Import Auth from AWS Amplify. So the method here is going to be await auth dot confirm sign up. And here we should send two things, username and the code that we receive on email. The username, we will take it from data.username because it's also inside the form, and the password is data.code. We can as well get the response equal and console log to see what do we get back, response. And also make sure to make this function async. Save. Let's give it a try right now. Username, and let me check the code that I received on my email. And if I press confirm and open the debugger, I should see here success, which means that my user with a username was confirmed by providing the code from the email. Let's double check it here in Amazon Cognito, and we see this username with the status confirmed. Perfect. This user will be able to already log in the account. So after this is done, where should we redirect the user? We will redirect him to the login screen. So navigation, navigate, not home, but sign in. And we don't need the response, we don't need to console log, because we know that if this didn't throw an error and if this didn't go here, it means that it successfully confirmed the account and we can safely navigate to the sign-in page. As well, on this page we have this resend code button that we can use whenever we didn't receive a code and we want to try to resend it once again. So let's implement that as well. Here, resend press. I'm gonna copy the try catch from the previous block, and the only thing that we do not need to navigate anywhere, and the method is called resend sign up code, and the method expects only one parameter for the username, so we do not need the code here. And let's not forget to make the function async. If I'll try to press now resend, I will see an error. Oops, data is not defined because we do not have a data here. The data in the previous function we received as a parameter because that's how use form works. But in the on resend press, we do not have access to that data to get the username of a user. One solution for that is going to be to watch the username field from the use form. And by watching, it means to create a variable where we will keep the username, like a copy of a username, where we will need it. So yeah, let's destructure watch function from use form, and we will say user name equal watch, and we will watch the field with the username name. Now we have this username that we can simply use here without the data in the on resend press. Let's try it again. Resend. User is already confirmed because yes, this user already is confirmed, so we do not need it. However, if I will use another username for an unconfirmed user, such as user1, I resend, and I don't see any errors, which means that it was resent successfully. What we can do is we can provide another alert. So the user knows that something happened. And for the message, we can say that code was resent to your email. Let's press resend. Success, code was resent to your email. Probably you will find better text than me. But you get the point. So we are done with this confirm email flow. The last flow that we have to implement is the forgot password. So let's quickly go there as well. Screens, forgot password screen, let's open it up. Let's right away import alert and also import the authentication. Import authentication from AWS Amplify. In the onSend press, we will do the try catch block. And I'm gonna actually copy it from somewhere here because I'm already lazy to do the same thing over and over. And the method that we will call here on the authentication is the forgot password. And this method expects only one parameter, username, and we will get it from the data.username like this. And let's make this function async as well. After it successfully does this, we will navigate him to the new password screen. So let's do that as well. And if I say here that I want to reset the password for username because that is the user that is confirmed here, press send. I'm redirected to the reset your password screen, and on my email I received a code. Now let's implement as well the reset password, the new password screen, which is this one. And besides the code and the password that we have here, we will also need the username so that Amplify knows for what user we are trying to reset the password. So let's do username placeholder, username here, and username is required. Okay, so let's go in the onSubmit press and let's bring the try catch block here as well. Let's bring it here. And the method that we're gonna call is forgot password submit. But before that, we need to import authentication to get some import. Unexpected await, that's because we need to make the function async, save, and here we need to finish implementing the function forgot. It's forgot password submit, and this method expects username, then code, then the new password. So data.username, then data.code, and then the new password. After this is successful, we will navigate to not to the new password, but back to the sign in. So username is username. Let me check the code. And for the password, I'm gonna say new password. Submit. Password cannot be empty because the name of our enter new password is name, but it should be password. And it was redirected home because we forgot this console warn data and navigate home. So let's remove these two lines as well. Let's retry the same flow again. So let's press forgot password. Let's request a password reset for the username, send. And after inputting the code that we received on email, I will write the new password, submit. And we're back to the login page. And if I'm gonna try to log in with the new password, sign in, I don't see any errors, which means that we have successfully signed in with the new password after we have reset it. Alright, so we have implemented all the screens that we will need for managing this full authentication flow with our custom UI screens. We have implemented the sign-in screen, the sign-up screen, the forgot password, confirmation of email, and resetting the password. We have done all the 5 screens, and we done it with the authentication module that we imported from AWS Amplify. The last step that we have to do is to properly navigate the user towards the screens that he should see. So if he's not signed in, we should redirect him right away to the sign in page. However, after he presses the sign in, he should be redirected to the home page and take it from there. To do that, let's open our navigation index here. And here we will conditionally render either all the sign-in screens that we see here, or we will render the home stack screen if the user is logged in. But the question is, how do we know if a user is signed in or not? Well, we can do that by as well using the authentication from AWS Amplify. From React, we will need use effect because we will check this when the component mounts. So let's define this use effect, which is going to be a function here and an empty dependency array. And in this function, what should we do? We will call a function, I don't know, check user. This check user function is going to be a simple check user function that will be also async, because we will call some asynchronous functions from authentication. And let's say const authentication user is equal to await authentication module dot current authenticated user. Current authenticated user is a function that will give us back the user that is currently authenticated. And there is a parameter called bypass cache. And if we set it to true, this will make sure not to take the data from the cache, but it will actually query Cognito in order to understand if a user is logged in or not. Okay, after we get this authentication of user, we will need to store it in state. So for that, let's create a use state hook and let's do user and set user use state, and initially it's going to be undefined. Okay, so with these properties, let's also make sure that we set the user in state, and we will set the user that we get from the current authenticated user function. Now we will have to conditionally render the parts of the application that actually needs to be possible to be rendered to the user. So let's add the JavaScript operator here and let's check if user is defined. Then here we will render the home screen. Otherwise, we will render all of these screens here. Save. But we cannot render multiple screens in the same block, so for that reason we will have to put them inside a fragment like this. And that's it. We already are redirected to the home sweet home, which is our home screen here. A very simple, very basic one. And if I refresh, initially I see the login screen, but if I don't do anything, we are automatically redirected to the home sweet home. And why does that happen? It happens that by default, user is undefined here. And after that, because it's undefined, it will not render the home. It will go straight into the second part and will render the sign-in screen. After a couple of seconds, after we receive a response from a current authenticated user, we set it back in state, and then it's already not undefined but an actual user, and it automatically switches to the home screen. That's already good, but I don't like that initially we see the login screen and after that we are redirected. And for that reason, I'm gonna provide a loading screen. So I'm gonna check if user is equal to undefined, then we will return simple view with an activity indicator. Let's make sure to import this activity indicator from React Native, and I'm gonna style the view to display it in the center. And one more thing, if the user is not authenticated, this method will throw an error. So we will put this in a try block, and if the execution reaches the catch block, if this method through an error, then we're gonna set our user not to undefined but to null, because we know for sure that the user is not logged in. And only if it's null, it will reach the sign-in screen, because if it's undefined, it will reach this if statement, will return our activity indicator, and that's it. Okay, let's try to press a reload. And instead of seeing the login screen, we see this activity indicator, but I made a mistake here. I forgot the of user to put it also inside the try catch here. So save, and right now home sweet home, but we didn't see the login screen. All right, that's good. Let's now implement the sign out functionality. And for that, I'm going to go in our home screen index, and here, I don't know, I'm gonna add a simple text. So after some very basic styling, here we have our sign out button. And to this sign out button, I'm gonna attach an on press event called sign out. Now let's implement this function, const sign out equal a function. And what should happen here? First we should import authentication, and then we should simply call auth.sign out. Save. And now if I press on the sign out, nothing happens, but if I refresh the application, after the loading screen, we are not redirected to the home screen, but we are redirected to the login page. So we see that sign out function is working, but our application is not responding to this event accordingly. It's not responding in real time. We had to refresh. And the same issue will happen when we will try to log in right now. We will not be redirected, and after we refresh the application, then we will be redirected. So how do we solve this issue? And why is it happening? It's happening because our navigation here is rendered conditionally based on the user, but this user is queried only when the component mounts here. So when the application starts, when the navigation mounts, then we check the user. We need a way to respond to sign-in events, to the sign-out events, in order to refetch our user using current authenticated user. How do we do that? We do that by using the hub that we will import from AWS Amplify. And this hub is a way to tap into the Amplify events and to respond to them. So Amplify, almost for everything that it is doing, it's firing an event. If it's a sign in, it will say like, hey, hub, there is a sign in event. Sign out, and for other services as well. So we will register a listener on that hub using the use effect, and that listener as well is going to be registered at the beginning of when the component mounts. And yeah, let's define the listener first. Listener is a function that will receive some data, and right away let's just simply console log data. Now we will register this as a listener using the hub.listen. We will listen here to the channel. What channel? The channel is the name of the service that we're trying to listen to. So it's authentication, and then the callback is our listener. That's it. We have registered our function as a callback method whenever some events are happening in the authentication module. Also, let's not forget to remove this listener whenever the component mounts in order not to have memory leaks. To do that, we're gonna call hub.remove as well authentication and then listener. Save. So let's open our debugger here. After our login is successful, we see here our data that was delivered using the hub that we were listening to. So here we see that the channel is authentication and the payload here contains an event and sign-in event. This is the thing that we're interested in. So data.payload.event is the variable, and we can do here like if data.payload.event, if this data is equal to sign in, or if this data is equal to sign out, what do we have to do? We basically have to call this check user method again. Save. Okay, we are on the home screen right now, and if I will press sign out, I'll be redirected here because our navigation is listening to authentication events and is properly responding to them by checking the user one more time. And the same will go with the login, the notjustdev, and if I press sign in, loading, and after that we are automatically redirected to our home page. Alright guys, that was everything that I wanted to teach you. One improvement that you can do is to extract everything related to the user and checking the user in a context that will wrap the whole application, and here in the navigation you will just get the user from the context. That is a better approach because at the moment we are dealing with a lot of authentication logic inside our navigation, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Navigation is for navigation and authentication should be a separate thing. Alright, thanks for watching till the end, and please let me know down in the description, in the comments below, what other projects I should do in the next tutorials. Because I have a lot of plans for 2022, but I want also to make sure that what I am doing is something that you actually want and you want to learn. If you enjoyed this video, smash the subscribe button somewhere in the description below, and also check out this video or this video, because they are also very good tutorials where you will learn a ton. But for now, take care, stay hydrated, and write clean code.